Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about the importance of checking original records. To start off with, we need to look at why we are even having this discussion. The reason is technology. With the advent of the internet, the way we do genealogy has changed significantly. There are many advantages to doing genealogy online. Firstly, now we can find in a few minutes what it took weeks or months to find 20 years ago. We no longer have to go to archives or libraries to find information. We can copy and paste the information into our tree rather than have to type in the information. Programs provide hints to save us from having to search out the sources. And lastly, you no longer have to be an expert to do genealogy. Anyone can do it. There are also disadvantages to doing genealogy on the internet. Ancestors are often added to our tree without a lot of thought of checking other possibilities. We put too much trust in the online hints or research displayed by others. And research logs have basically gone out the window. Finding names within a few minutes may not endear us to those ancestors. And we often have no idea of the origin of the record that is giving us the information. We rely on extracted records instead of checking the originals. It's this last point we're going to focus on today. Firstly, we need to distinguish between indexed or extracted records and online images. Indexed or extracted records help you find the person you are looking for. They allow you to put a name in a search box and search. Here's an example of a search box. Hopefully this looks familiar to you. I put in a search for Albert David Cundall. Here is the extracted record of one of the results I got from my search. The information is pretty good. However, in this case, the actual digital image is available for me to view. With such easy access to the original, you would definitely want to look at it. Even though I'm not showing the entire online record, there is another page, note that additional information is shown on the original, and as an added bonus, Albert's signature at the bottom. So why is it important to check original sources? Firstly, extraction errors can be problematic. Names, places, and dates all can be misinterpreted, sometimes making it difficult to even find the information you are searching for. Secondly, with extraction, certain pieces of information are typed into designated fields. There is no accommodation for additional information that may be on the original. There have been many times when I've been indexing that I wished I could have put a certain piece of additional information in, but there is no accommodation for adding it. The original almost always has more information. Lastly, original records are often the way discrepancies can be resolved. Let's look at each of these reasons separately. To illustrate the first of these 3 points, let's start with a search for Joseph L. Jolly in the 1880 US Census. As you can see by the extracted record, his name was interpreted as Tolly instead of Jolly. Some creative searching found him fairly easily, but that is not always the case. You can see on the original record how the name Jolly could have been read as Tolly. Here is another example showing a place that has been extracted incorrectly, this time on the 1851 England census. Samuel Molly's place of birth has been extracted as Lower Wallop, Huntingdonshire. After a thorough search of Huntingdonshire, no Lower Wallop could be found. Checking the original census showed that the county was listed as Hants, which is an abbreviation for Hampshire, which is 130 miles away from Huntingdonshire. Dates can also be misinterpreted. Here on Family Search Family Tree, you see what looks like possibly two different James Garners, maybe father and son. One born in 1792 and the other born in 1812, both in the same place. In looking at the sources for James Garner, I looked at the 1851 England census extraction, which lists James Garner as 59 years old, with a calculated birth of 1792. The other sources all pointed to 1812 as the birth year. In checking the original census entry, I see that the 59 years is in fact 39 years, calculating his birth as 1812. So my conclusion is that there is in fact only one James Garner, born around 1812. An error in extraction caused quite a bit of confusion for a while. We've talked about errors in extraction. The second and perhaps the most important reason to check the original record is that the original almost always has more information. Following are several examples of this. You see here the extracted record of a burial for William Reader, age 26. In looking at the original, we find William Reader's burial. But look in the margin at some of the information that was not extracted. It reads, executed at Cambridge for arson, with a bracket showing that William Turner also met the same fate on the same day. They were probably friends or possibly relatives. Here is another example of additional information that was not included on the extracted record. In this case, a baptismal record. Note in the margin is also written the birth date of the individual. And over on the right of the surname, the town or area of residence and the occupation of the father. None of that information was recorded on the extracted record. Here we see the extraction of a World War I service record for Harry Huckle, with the original on the right. Not only does the original give a physical description of Harry, but also comments on his character. It states his character is very good, that he is honest, reliable and hard-working, a very useful man. Nice to know that not all my relatives were hung. In this next example, we see the extracted record of the burial of John Shreves in Bombay, India in 1910. The original shows not only the burial date and place, but also the cemetery where he was buried, and tells us that he was living with his daughter and son-in-law, who I had previously not found, even giving the name and occupation of the son-in-law. It says, John Shreve, 72, retired sanitary inspector, living with his daughter and son-in-law, Mr. London, guard M&SM Railway, Gadag. In this example, we learn from the extracted record that Judith Mills was the daughter of Samuel and Rachel Mills. However, the original also states that the father of Rachel, Judith's mother, was Henry Dunster. We now have the mother's maiden name. It also states that Judith was 3 weeks old when she was baptized. Probably my very favorite example of the importance of checking the original comes from this succinct extraction of the death at sea of Hugh Lee. In the burial entry it states, the body of a man unknown picked up off Blackgang, supposed to be about 30 years of age and to have been in the sea about 6 weeks. However, in the margin it says, on the 17th of June 1869, the body was claimed as that of Hugh Lee, able seaman, after having been washed aboard the RM steamship Oneida off the Needles on the 10th of February 1869 by his widow, who on seeing in the newspaper a notice of the inquest held over the body at Chale, came here and called on me, The clothes found on the body were in an unusually well-preserved state, led the widow to conclude that it was the body of her husband. The widow was residing at Southampton. I would certainly want to know that story if this was my ancestor. The last reason to check the original record is to resolve discrepancies in records. Here we see the extracted marriage of Anne Bestwick to Robert Randall or Randon on the 14th of August 1787 in St. Lawrence, Heanor, Derbyshire. But wait! Here we see the marriage of Anne Bestwick to Robert Allred on the 14th of August 1787 in the same place. Would the real husband of Anne Bestwick please stand up? By looking at the original records, we clearly see what happened. The person indexing this information recorded both records as they were instructed to do. There was no way of indicating that the first entry was recorded in error, then crossed through. So, problem solved by checking the original. Anne Bestwick was really married to Robert Allred. Finding the original record is not always as easy as the example shown here. Different databases handle the way to view images of the original in different ways. A few, as in this example, may be available with the extracted record. For some, look for links that say Image or View Original. Still others may be available on another website and a link is given to look at it there. Other original records, however, can be very tricky to find. It would take a whole other training video to go through the ways of finding images of original records. Fortunately, here are two resources that will walk you through ways to find original records. The first one is a PDF document that gives you the instructions, and the second is a great video by James Tanner that discusses how to find digital records on Family Search. Good luck in researching your family, and remember to always check those original records.